The presentation focuses on the common pest problems that farmers and gardeners will normally see on their plants, and how you can use various organic methods to produce some degree of control on them. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, when we look at pests in general, that is insect and mite pests in particular, they fall under two main categories. Um, that is those that suck the sap from the various parts of the plants that they're on, such as leaves, stems, buds, flowers, whatever. And examples of these are scale insects, mealybugs, whiteflies, aphids, thrips, and also mites. But the gamut of pests also includes other things like leaf miners, midges, moth, and beetle borers, snails, and slugs, which actually eat parts of the plants as opposed to sucking the sap from them. Next slide, please. Now, the ways of controlling these pests can be broken down into two main sections: mechanical control. By that, I don't, sorry, three parts. Mechanical control, which doesn't involve machines as such as the name might suggest, but things like hand picking and knocking the pests off the plant, that sort of thing. Then there's biological control, and which utilizes the pest's own natural enemies, whether they be predators or parasites. And the third method of control is chemical control, which basically is using insecticides, miticides, and molluscicides. And these include all organic alternatives, which we are going to talk about tonight. Next slide, please. First, let's look at the sucking pests. Next slide. Okay. First, we look at scale insects. Now, these little creatures are they attach themselves onto the leaves and even fruit. The picture at the right shows a soursop. You can hardly tell it's a soursop, but it is infested completely with a type of scale, and this type is called the croton scale, which was brought into Barbados by a lady a few years ago who saw some nice hibiscus plants, and she said she would like to have some growing in her garden. She took some cuttings and inadvertently brought in this problem, which is a big problem on a wide range of different plants, a whole wide range. And it attacks all sorts of ornamentals, including crotons, fruit crops, mangoes, soursop, and a whole set of other plants. In addition to actually sucking the sap from the plants that they're feeding on, they also attract biting ants, black ants, because they secrete a sweet, sticky liquid which attracts the ants. And they also produce large amounts of a thick, black, sooty mold, which Bajans often refer to as black blight. Okay, next slide, please. Another example of a scale insect was this big problem that we had a few years ago, which was the sago palm scale. And you'll see them on the bottom right hand photo. The round ones being the females and the elongate ones, the males. And those small yellowish ones being the younger stages of them. And what they did, they attacked mainly the sago palm and killed off many hundreds of them, covered the leaves in a almost snow or whitewashed appearance, and slowly sucked the living daylights out of those plants and killed them. Next slide, please. But we introduced, when it was at the Ministry of Agriculture, two biological control agents, a tiny wasp on the top left-hand photo, Cocobius fulvus, and a tiny predatory beetle, Cybercephalus, about the size of a pinhead. And we collected them in Florida and brought them back here to Barbados, where they subsequently began to be established and gave a degree of control. Next slide, please. Another type of scale that is quite prevalent, and a lot of people would have seen it on their coconuts in particular, or palms, is the coconut scale. And that the slide gives information there more about it. The circular ones you see to the bottom are the females, and those yellowish looking blobs underneath the scale are the young, which they can produce in very large numbers. And these young crawl all over the plants, find a good spot to sit down and begin to suck the sap out of the leaves. And they remain there for the rest of their lives. They also secrete that honeydew and cause the black sooty mold to develop on the plants, which further debilitate these plants. It prevents it from photosynthesizing as it would normally do. Next slide, please. But there are also a range of parasites, tiny wasps, that can give good control of that coconut scale. And here I show two photos and two drawings of the 4 species that we have here in Barbados. They're out there in the environment doing their job. And you see them there, Aphytis, Encarsia, Cocobius, and Centrodora. They are examples of biological control. Totally 100% organic. Next slide, please. In addition to those parasites, there are a range of predatory beetles. These are ladybird beetles. And you see here the 7 species that I have highlighted. These are very small. All of you would know that ladybirds are useful creatures. They feed on a wide range of pests, and they should be encouraged and preserved as much as possible. So please don't kill them. Next slide, please. This shows some further examples of scale insects that we will find on our garden plants and fruit trees. And for example, the soft green scale, you will see on a wide range of ornamentals. The star scale, you will find it quite commonly on mango. Mussel scale, you will see a lot of it on hibiscus at times. And the bottom right hand shows another one that is quite distinct. It sticks off like a horn from the stem of the plant, and it's called Crypticeria. Next slide, please. Now we turn to a different type of sucking pest, and these are the mealybugs. And I gave two examples here in the beginning, being the most people will be familiar with it, people who grow plants. That is the pink hibiscus mealybug, which is shown on the left top photo. And the bottom left photo shows a severe infestation of um, the pawpaw mealybug, um, Paracoccus, um, which it looks really unsightly. It causes a lot of black honeydew, sooty mold on it as well. So you really can't sell the fruit as such or utilize the fruit as such unless you give it a really good wash off. But fortunately, both of these species, which came in as invasive species, have now been brought under excellent biological control, and they're no longer a problem. Completely organic. Next slide, please. Um, that black sooty mold that I referred to earlier covers the leaves. It is caused when the sucking pest feeds on the plant and secretes some of the liquid that it sucks up in the form of a thick, sweet liquid called honeydew. Now, this honeydew spreads out on the leaves, and it is an ideal medium in which different fungi can grow. And that black stuff that you see on your leaves is a complex of various fungi growing in that sweet, sticky liquid called honeydew, which has been secreted by the sucking pests. Now, when that black covering gets on the leaves, it inhibits photosynthesis because the sunlight can't really penetrate into the leaf tissue to ensure maximum photosynthesis. So the plant suffers from reduced vigor and poor growth. Next slide, please. Now, these are the natural enemies, the organic control methods that have been used to give good control of those two mealybug pests that I mentioned, the pink hibiscus mealybug and the pawpaw mealybug. Now, if we look to the left-hand photos, there is a tiny wasp called Anagyrus kamali and a predatory ladybird, Cryptolemus, both of which were introduced into Barbados and have given excellent control of that particular pest. The two on the right, top one being a tiny wasp again, Astrophagus, which is a parasitoid or parasite of the pawpaw mealybug. And the bottom right photo shows the naturally occurring here type of fly that is parasitic on those mealybugs as well. So as I said, these have brought those two pests under excellent biological control, and most of the time you do not have to do anything to control them. These little creatures do it for you. Next slide, please. Now, those mealybugs that I mentioned have a range of different predators that will feed on them, like small ladybird beetles, green lacewings, as is shown in the bottom extreme left photo. There is also a predatory fly larva. You see it there in the middle bottom, that pink looking creature there. It's feeding voraciously on the mealybugs. And there's also, well, the bottom right photo shows the actual larval stage of the green leaf bug, which is again a very voracious predator and feeds on a lot of them and brings them under good control. Next slide, please. Um, so there are a whole range of mealybug species that feed on the various plants that we have here. And some examples are shown here, Planococcus, Phaeresia, and so forth, Phenacoccus. And these feed on various species of ornamental plants and fruit trees and so forth, garden plants in general. Next slide, please. Now we turn to another example of sucking pests, and these are referred to as the whiteflies. And as the name implies, it looks like a small white fly. And when you tap a plant or shake it, you see a lot of these little white flies flying off. Um, they are difficult to control because they feed on a wide range of different crops, ornamental plants, and weeds. And you know we have a lot of weeds all over the place. And in addition to the actual physical damage that they do to the plants, they are um, transmitters or vectors of a wide range of plant viruses. There are, I think, at least 31 different species of Gemini virus that these whiteflies can transmit and cause a lot of problems. We have a big problem now in Barbados with sweet potato. And sweet potato can be affected by two different viruses, which are transmitted by these little whiteflies. And when they do so, they result in you getting very few potatoes or no potatoes at all. So there are problems, big problems. Unfortunately, biological control is only effective if you grow your plants in enclosed spaces like greenhouses. And they're not, the parasites in particular are not so effective in open field situations. Next slide, please. Now, some further examples of whitefly species are shown here, feeding on fruit trees, ornamentals, weeds, crops, and so forth. And this is just 4 examples. There are many others, many others. Okay, next slide, please. Another example of the sucking pests are what we call aphids, or some people refer to them as plant lice or green bugs. And they are soft body sucking pests. They have mouth parts like in the shape of a hypodermic needle, which they insert into the plants and suck the sap from them. Right? And these 2 pictures here show different species of aphids. The top one being Aphis gossipii, or the cotton aphid, which feeds on a wide range of plants, not only on cotton. And the bottom one is a pronounced yellow-orange aphid, which is quite distinct. It's called Aphis neri, and it loves to feed on your ornamental plants like desert rose and oleander. Next slide, please. Some further examples of the aphids include things like the Myzus persicae, the green peach aphid, Toxoptera, which is the citrus aphid. And yeah, so, and again, we have a whole range of different species here in Barbados. They can be a problem. There are problems at times, particularly in the dry weather. And I must add here, though, that these sucking pests tend to proliferate during the drier times of the year. And why? Because it is then that the plants are under water stress. And when they are in this situation, the compounds in their sap tend to be much elevated in terms of the nitrogen type compounds in their sap. And this is beautiful food for the sucking pest. So during the dry times of the year, when this elevation of high nitrogen compounds in the sap, it causes these insects, these sucking pests, to really, their populations tend to explode because there's no rain to wash them off the plants as well. So the populations tend to be really high during the dry times of the year in terms of these sucking pests. So you have to keep your eyes out for them. Keep your plants as well hydrated as you can. And then you'll be able to, after you've noticed them, then you can use various types of control methods. Okay, next slide, please. Now, one of the most effective biological control agents for aphids is, again, a tiny wasp called Lysophlebus testacipes. And this stings the aphid, deposits the egg in there. The egg hatches out, as you can see in the diagram. The egg hatches out and begins to voraciously devour the inside of the aphid. And in doing so, it causes the aphid body to become mummified. You see it like tiny beige, brownish balls on the plants. And you will see that in the bottom left photo, those mummified aphids there. And you will see like two of them there have tiny openings with a flap. That is where the adult wasp has emerged after killing the aphid, again, to mate and start the cycle going all over again. Totally biological, totally out there in the environment doing its work. Completely organic. Next slide, please. In addition to those tiny wasps, we have things like ladybird beetles and the common reddish orange ladybird beetles that we see in most parts of Barbados, Cyclonidus sanguinea. The top right hand shows what the adult beetle looks like, and the bottom left right hand shows the larval stage of that beetle. It looks totally and completely different, doesn't it? And people think they're two separate things. And people may think that the ladybird beetle larva is a pest when it's not. So one of the key things when you're dealing with these pest problems is to know what your pest looks like. And if you don't, ask somebody who can help you to identify them. Okay? Please do that instead of going and using some sort of control method which may not prove very effective at all, or you may not have to do any control in the first place. Another example of a predator that will feed on the aphids and give you biological control is what you call a hoverfly. And it's quite distinct. It looks like a tiny fly just hovering in midair. And the middle photo to the bottom shows the larva of that hoverfly actively eating the aphids there to give good predation. Next slide, please. Another set of insects that fall broadly under the category of sucking pests are thrips. These are small, soft-bodied insects that can do a lot of damage to your plants. Strictly speaking, they are not sucking pests like the white flies and mealybugs or so, which insert their mouth parts into the plant tissue and suck the sap up. The thrips, however, use their mandibles or mouth parts to pierce mainly the surface cells of the plant. And when they do so, the sap oozes out. And then they suck that sap up with their mouth, right? So, and then they leave a kind of silvery or bronzy appearance on the plant as well, which can cause damage to your fruit in particular. I've seen avocados, for example, with a very thick brown leathery skin. And the damage was caused by this beastie to the bottom photo, the red-banded thrips, Selenothrips rubоспhinctus. Now, you can see during the dry season, clear examples. You don't have to go up to near to the plant. You can see it meters and meters away on almonds. The almond trees normally during more wetter times of the year look nice and green, the leaves, but in dry season, they often turn a kind of a silvery appearance. You can spot it from way off. And the main damage is done by these red-banded thrips. Next slide, please. Now, what's unique about these thrips is that their life cycle has two parts to it. One part on the plant itself and another plant in the soil or in the medium that you're growing the plant in. The adult will come along, the female, and lay her egg onto the plant. They usually will cut a slit into the plant, put the egg in that slit, and the plant exudes sap, which closes up that wound that you would never know that thrips eggs are in there. However, when these eggs hatch out, they go through two larval instars or stages, which feed voraciously on the plant leaves or fruit. And after that, they will usually fall off the plant and go into leaf litter or soil beneath those plants. So when you're looking at them in terms of control mechanisms using pesticides, you have to bear that in mind and treat the plant as well as the medium that the plant is growing in order to get good control. I've seen it many times with farmers treating just the plant and not the soil or plant medium, and then wondering why they cannot get any degree of control because they're only treating that top above surface part of the thrips life cycle. Okay, next slide, please. And like most of the rest, thrips have natural enemies, um, predators, and even a fungus that will feed on them or parasitize them. And you see here the minute pirate bug, and these things are very small. You see it with the mouth part, the elongated mouth part there, like a needle piercing the thrip's body and sucking the sap, sucking the body fluids out and killing it. There are also predatory thrips as well, which feed on the pest type thrips and help to produce good biological control. There's also another one, um, big eye bug, Geocoris, which again preys on the thrips. You see it also inserting its mouth part into a thrips and killing it. There's also the green lacewing, which is a active predator on the thrips. And in addition to that, there are various species of fungi which will parasitize the thrips' bodies and kill them. And the bottom right-hand photo shows a parasitized thrips larva, which has been parasitized by a fungus called Bopharia bassiana. Next slide, please. Thrips, as I mentioned a little before, will cause this kind of silvering or bronzing on the plant surfaces, the leaves and fruit. And you also see speckling, black speckles on the leaf as well. That's the droppings from the same thrips when they're feeding. So it's quite characteristic. In addition to that, they can also carry or vector a number of plant viruses. Okay. Now, the bottom right-hand photo shows a very severely damaged pepper plant. You would never know that that is a pepper plant, but that is the sort of damage that you can get from these various species of thrips. I mean, when a plant is in that kind of condition, there's a much, you might as well pull it up and throw it away. It's not going to yield anything. Right? And next slide, please. Another one of the sucking, piercing type pests. These are not insects, these are mites. And the two photos show two examples of these mites. The top one being red spider mites, which many people would have seen on their plants. And the bottom one is the two-spotted mite. And it's obviously, you see those two big spots on either side of that mite body. Now, they are very small. Some are even microscopic in size, and they can multiply tremendously, particularly in the dry season, when, as I mentioned before, their food source, the nitrogenous compounds in the leaves, are at their maximum. They destroy the chlorophyll in the leaves and even on fruit. And you get that speckled appearance. The green chlorophyll is destroyed. You get that speckly appearance. And you can also, in addition to that discoloration, the plants can become even stunted or even killed if the infestation is high. There are also some species that produce webs, like spider webs. And yeah, and it can coat the leaves and other parts of the plants and collect dust, and it makes the plants look really dirty and ugly. Next slide, please. A few other mite species that we have here in Barbados is the red palm mite, which has done an enormous amount of damage in many other Caribbean islands. I've seen it in Trinidad on coconut trees, for example, where the entire tree appears red. Millions or billions of mites are on them. Another species is, and most Bajans would be familiar with these, people who grow your own coconuts, or you see the coconuts on the side of the road if you go to purchase your coconut water. You see that brown scarring on the nut, and that's caused by an almost microscopic mite. And you see it in there in the top right-hand photo. It's very small. It gets under the cap of the coconut, feeds in there in a protective environment, and does that kind of um, scarring on the fruit of the coconuts, which reduces the water content as well as the copper content of the nuts. Next slide, please. Now, fortunately, there are some predators which will feed on these mites. We have things like the rove beetle. They're on the bottom left, Oligota barbadorum. The top right is a predatory mite attacking a pest mite. And the bottom one is another mite predator, a very tiny, about the size of a pinhead, ladybird beetle called Stethurus. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we also have examples of parasitic fungi killing the mites. And the left-hand photo shows a beautiful example of a mite heavily infected and killed by the parasitic fungus Beauveria bassiana. All organic, all natural, all biological. Next slide, please. Now we turn from the sucking pests to other types that you might encounter in your gardens and in your fields and in your patios, wherever you're growing plants. And the first one I'm highlighting is the leaf miner. Now these are mainly fly type pests. The major one being Liriomyza. And what they do is they lay their eggs into the leaves, in particular of plants, and the maggots that hatch out from these eggs will burrow beneath the surface of the leaf and cause these serpentine or winding galleries or tunnels just below the leaf surface, destroying the chlorophyll in the process, reducing your plant vigor and growth. And I have seen some horrible examples of it happening in onions, commercial onions growing in Barbados. Yeah, really bad at times. Next slide, please. But there are also some biological control agents for these types of leaf miners. And here I've shown 4 examples of very tiny parasitic wasps that produce good biological control at times for these leaf miner species. Okay, next slide, please. Another type of pest that we encounter, you ornamental growers, you orchid growers, people who grow hibiscus, is a a tiny fly called a midge. And this one that I have highlighted is the hibiscus or dendrobium midge. The top left shows a picture of what the adult of that fly looks like. Very similar to a mosquito, very fragile, similar looking to a mosquito. The right hand picture shows the maggot of that or larval stage of that fly feeding inside a bud of a dendrobium orchid. And it can do a lot of damage inside those orchids, so much so that a number of the buds will drop off, flowers fail to open, and the stems are very scraggly in appearance, really don't look good. And for those who produce cut flowers, you really can't sell a stem like that. So it can cause quite a bit of problems to your hibiscus as well as your dendrobium orchids if not controlled properly. Next slide, please. Some more examples of the pests that we encounter out there are the different types of borers. And as the name suggests, these creatures bore into the plants, into the branches in particular, of fruit trees. They love avocado, for example. They love breadfruit, and a number of other plants, number of other trees that they actually bore into the branches, make them weaker, susceptible to breaking in winds, and reducing the vigor and productivity of those plants. Now, these borers, the ones that are problems here in Barbados, fall under two categories, a category of moth borers or the cussid moths. And the second category is a beetle type of borer, the longhorn or cerambicid type beetles. And you will see an example in the middle photo of the beetle Florida festiva. Now, these bore, as I said, they bore into a wide range of things. The cuscids in particular love to bore into crotons and hollow out the stems completely. They can bore into whitewood, avocado, breadfruit. And the beetle ones like to bore into Barbados ebony, Spanish ash, and so forth trees. They are very difficult to control, and you have to monitor them very carefully. And sometimes you do not have any other choice but to use standard or synthetic pesticides because the organic farms simply don't give the kind of control that you're looking for, unfortunately. Next slide, please. Another example of the different type of pest which was introduced into the island a few years ago is a tiny wasp, which is a gall wasp. And it fed and disfigured erythrina or willy willy trees in Barbados. Hundreds and hundreds of them died as a result of that. And you will see the on the top left-hand photo, you will see the male and female wasps, very small. And when the larval stage of them feed on the plant and infest the plants, you get all sorts of weird, twisted, deformed growths over and over again, which has led to death of many, many of these plants. We tried to get, when he was at the ministry, there was a parasite, tiny wasp as well, which gives pretty good control of it. We tried to get it out of Hawaii, but unfortunately, we were not able to do so. And I encourage people at the ministry to try again because it's an easy way to control this gall wasp. Yeah, so please, if you're listening, try again to see if you can get the biocontrol agents for this wasp. Next slide, please. Now, some other pests that we encounter in the gardens and fields and so are things like giant African snail, and we all know the story about that. Um, it came into Barbados, population skyrocketed, did a lot of damage. Fortunately, now it's not at the level that it was before because there are a wide range of predators and even a parasitic mite is feeding on it and helping to give a reasonably good degree of control. Then there is another tiny spiral scale, Zacrisia, which can appear in large numbers in your crops. It loves leafy vegetables in particular. And there are also different species of slugs, which a lot of people are familiar with. Sloan slug, for example, and the Cuban slug. Okay, next slide, please. One of the organic ways of controlling these snails and slugs is the use of a product called Sluggo. And it's organic because it only contains iron phosphate, which is present in soil anyway. And it gives reasonably good control of these slugs and snails. And it is good thing about it is that it's safe for use around pets and livestock. Many of the other slug pellets contain a compound called metaldehyde, and that is not safe around your pets and livestock. It can poison them. So if you have pets in on your property and livestock, make sure that if you are baiting for the slugs and snails, you use an organic alternative like Sluggo. Okay, next slide, please. No, it doesn't. As to my knowledge, it does not affect earthworms. That the person had asked. But some of the newer problems that we have encountered um, are the avocado lace bug, which is shown on the left. And I get so many calls about this. It basically feeds on the leaves of your pear or avocado trees, causes them to turn brown, parts of them to turn brown, or even the entire leaf can turn brown if the infestation is high. And in some cases, depending on the variety of pear that you're growing, you can get all the leaves dropping off and no fruit forming. Okay? So it can be a problem. Another big problem that we had over the past few years is the death of hundreds of our golden apple trees. And you see a dead one here with big holes in it. Now that's primarily caused by um, when the tree being under drought stress, it is very susceptible to a fungus, a parasitic fungus called Botryopsferia, which is a normal good rainfall weather, or if you keep the trees well hydrated, the trees are able to quite effectively fight off that infestation. But however, in the dry season, they are very susceptible to that fungus attack. And when that fungus attack comes into the tree and the tissues begin to die, they attract a bark beetle called Lagopyrus rainiformis. And that is what produces those large holes all over the tree. It looks like somebody has shot it with a high-powered rifle or something like that. And the two of them, the combination of the two of them will kill the tree. So keep your golden apple trees as hydrated as possible, particularly in the dry season, and that should help them to fight off those infestations. Next slide, please. Two more examples of recent introductions, invasives into the island are the tobacco thrips. Well, I talked about thrips earlier, and they're minute pests. They feed on and damage a whole range of plants. And this particular one, the tobacco thrips, has a particular liking for ornamentals like jasmines and gardenias. And I've seen examples at various households where the infestation has led to almost all of the leaves on your jasmine and gardenias dropping off completely, and you end up with a lot of sticks and dead plants. So it's a serious pest. And it can also transmit a not welcome virus called the tomato spotted wilt virus. Okay, which can do further damage. And the latest one that has come to our shores is called the cotton jacid. It's a type of leafhopper, Amrasca bigotula, and quite distinct with those two black spots on the top of it, of the insect. And it damages crops like okra, cotton, and it can even do a lot of damage to your hibiscus as well. So you plant and ornamental growers are not getting away from this, but it can do a lot, and I've seen it do a lot of damage to okra. A lot of the okra leaves just turn red or brown, and they look all deformed. They drop off, and the plants look really unhealthy. So that is the newest invader into our space. Yeah. Next slide, please. Now, what I thought I would show you are some examples of what we might refer to as organic pesticides, as opposed to the synthetic pesticides that you will see around the place, like the various pyrethroids and carbamates, organophosphates, and a whole set of other types of synthetic pesticides. This chart shows some organic alternatives that you can use, because many people out there do not like using those standard synthetic pesticides for one reason or the other. So here are some organic, safe pesticides that you can use to control various of your pests. And the first one being soap, which controls a wide range of different pests, including the mealybugs, scales, thrips, mites, leaf bugs, leaf miter, and so forth. And it basically smothers those insects and kills them. Then there are a range of, an example of the soap is a lot of people will know, called Safer soap. Then there are the horticultural oils, such as ultrafine oil, and they control basically the same range of pests that the soaps will. Okay. Then you can use a mixture of the soap and oil together. And I've talked about this many, many, many times on the radio. And this is one that you can make in your own kitchen, right? Again, controlling a wide range of these soft-bodied pests. In addition to that, there are examples of plant oils, which could do good control. An example of this is a product called Aromite, which is a mixture of cinnamon and clove oils. And they're really, really effective at controlling these sucking pests like thrips and also mites. Really good. Then there are extracts from the neem tree. A lot of you may know about the neem tree. And you can get over-the-counter preparations of the neem under the names of Nemex, BioNeem, or even Trilogy. And again, they control a wide range of soft-bodied insects and also caterpillars as well. Then there's pyrethrum, which is a natural extract from the chrysanthemum flower, organic. And an example, you can purchase it under the name Pyganic. Again, it controls a wide range of pests, including aphids, various species of beetles, plant bugs, thrips, caterpillars, and so forth. Garlic is another example. Garlic barrier. And this is mainly acts as a repellent. The smell of it repels the insects, so they actually don't get onto your plant to do the kind of damage that we have been talking about. Another example of an organic pesticide, again, is one called diatomaceous earth, which is basically fossilized remains of tiny organisms. And they are very abrasive to the skin, as you might call it, of insects like ants, aphids, beetles, crickets, earwigs, and they could also damage mites and caterpillars. Basically, what they do when the insect rubs against it or walks through it, it abrades their skin and their body contents, their body fluids leak out. They become dehydrated and eventually die. Totally organic. Then there's a range. I had mentioned one or more of them during the earlier part of the presentation. There are different types of parasitic fungi that you can get now over the counter under the name of Biomagic or Biopower or Biocatch. And these are mainly targeting the sucking pests and the mites and can be very, very effective. Another example of plant oils is a product called EcoSmart Garden Insect Killer, which contains rosemary and the peppermint oils. And again, it kills and repels a pretty wide range of these insects, mites, caterpillars, and beetles. Okay, so there are some examples. There are not all the examples. There are other products out there, but I thought I would just show you some of the categories of the alternative organic pesticides that are available over the counter right now. Next slide, please. Now, I thought I would share with you three examples of, in this particular slide, three examples of these organic pesticides that you can prepare at your home. You don't have to go to any hardware store or agro retail company to purchase them. You can prepare them at home in your kitchen. And the first is a soap and oil mixture. 2 teaspoons of any dishwashing liquid you have, half a teaspoon of cooking oil, and you put them in 1 gallon of water. Shake it well to mix it, people. You must shake it up to ensure that it is thoroughly mixed. And you spray that evening time only, not morning, not midday, not mid-afternoon, evening time. Because when you do that, you tend to reduce any possible damage that you might get through the soap and oil on the leaves of your plants in particular, because some plants are very sensitive. So you should try it on 1 or 2 first and do it only evening time, people. And spray thoroughly all over, top, bottom, sideways, in between, all over. And give it as we Bajans say, give it a good sousing down. And you can repeat it as often as you like. Every 3 days, 2, 3 days, you can do it because it's just a little soap and a little oil. You ain't gonna do the plant usually, no problem, nor you. Another thing that you can use or you can make up is a lemon juice spray. You can use a part of 1 part of the lemon juice to 1 part of water, and spray these against things like aphids and whiteflies. Okay. You can also prepare a garlic infused alcohol. That is, you crush 4 or 5 garlic cloves and add 1 cup of rubbing alcohol to them. Let them sit there for 24 hours. Then you strain it through a fine sieve or a piece of cheesecloth, add a cup of water, and you can use it as an effective spray for white flies, aphids, and caterpillars. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, another organic alternative that you can use that is quite readily available and cheap is the old reliable hydrogen peroxide, the 3% type, available on most pharmacy shelves or supermarket shelves. A good thing about it that it doesn't leave any kind of residue on your plants because it degrades to oxygen and water. But when you're doing these mixtures, make sure you use only rainwater or tap water that has been left in an open container for at least 24 hours to make sure all the chlorine has come off, because the chlorine can degrade the hydrogen peroxide. Now, I show here various concentrations or dilutions that you can use to control various types of pests. Aphids, for example, you mix 1 part of the peroxide to 3 parts of water and you spray. Spider mites, you spray the undiluted peroxide against the adults and younger ones. Mealybugs, a 1-to-4 ratio. You spray on the plant to control them. You can also use it as a drench the soil to control things like root mealybugs. And you mix it at the rate of 1 part of the peroxide to 5 parts of water. For thrips, You use a one-to-one spray on the plant and on the soil because you remember I told you thrips have a two-stage life cycle. White flies, you use a 1 to 3 spray. Cutworms, which can be a big problem at times on your seedlings, you can use a 1 to 4 drench. Fungi like powdery and downy mildew, which can be a big problem at times. Someone sent me some photos yesterday about that mildew on their squash vines. So you use that at the rate of, for those two fungi, you use it at the rate of 1 tablespoon to 1/4 water. As a root drench, 1 to 3, and so forth. You be damping off seedlings, spray it onto the soil, and you can even use it to sterilize your seedling trays before you use them again. Next slide, please. Now, in addition to the various organic methods that I've been talking about, there are also other cultural practices that you can use on your plants and crops, fruit trees, which are all organic. And there are things like crop rotation. In other words, don't plant back the same thing in the same spot season or year after year. Rotate it into something different. Intercropping, that is planting more than one crops or plants in a given area because it reduces the smell or interrupts the smell that the insects have for these crops, one masking the smell of the other. The use of repellent plants, for example, marigolds. Most people know what marigolds are, and they're very effective at not only reducing insect damage, but also nematode damage. Nematodes are tiny parasitic worms that feed on the roots of your plants. It can cause quite a bit of damage in things like tomatoes, for example. I have seen horrible examples of nematode-infected tomatoes, right? Crop diversity. You can use different varieties of different crops within a given area to, again, reduce the level of insect damage, so forth, and pest damage in general. Good weed control. Weeds host a variety of different pests that can move onto your crops, your backyard plantings, and do a lot of damage. And a classic example of that is what we call wild slip. It is a vine that bears a light mauve-colored flower. That's very similar to sweet potato vines. It is the same family, just a different species. And that weed hosts the major problem of sweet potato that we have on the island, which is scarby weevil. And so you should control your wild slip vines when you're thinking or about growing sweet potatoes, or in general, just get rid of them because they host that beetle, the scarby beetle, when there's no sweet potato in the field. The use of green manures and cover crops to help to keep the soil covered and moist, and encourage predatory insects in general, which will feed on your pest problems. That's a good way of doing it. Variety resistance. Some varieties have resistance to various pests, others don't. So you look for ones that have resistance to your insect pests and your fungal pests in particular. And they are available out there. Just ask for them and make sure that your seed supplier supplies them. Don't let them force any old thing on you. Tell them what you want. You're the customer. You are paying your hard-earned cash for them. So let them know what you want. There are other methods like using sticky traps, which actually attract the pest to various colored traps. For example, things like white flies. They're used against white flies and thrips. And there are certain trap crops that you can use to trap various insects onto them and then control them. More recently, there's a thing called a floating row cover, which is a very light mesh material that actually sits on top of the crop. It doesn't damage the crop at all, but it prevents entry because of the fine woven nature of it. Prevents entry of various pests on getting into your crop. Building up your soil, making sure your soil is well ameliorated with things like various types of plant manure, animal manure, or plant products like fallen leaves, long clippings, and various plant products like that. Very important is to, when you're planting, select healthy plant material. And I've seen this at some of the places that sell seedlings, for example. Some of them really don't meet the grade, honestly. So if you see seedlings like that really not looking well, don't buy them. Look for good quality, healthy planting material. And the last one in this list is mechanical control, which basically means you go around and pick off your insects like your caterpillars and beetles and that sort of thing off your plants, or take a stick and knock them off and simply crush them, right? So that's a range of other organic pest control measures that you can use. And it is a combination of these plus the organic pesticides that I mentioned just now, and also the naturally occurring parasites and predators that we have out there in the environment doing their job. The combination of all these can result in some good plants being grown. Next slide, please. So when you combine all these, you should end up with a beautiful, healthy, productive, organic garden. And let me say thank you for your attendance. And if you need to contact me, my contact information is shown there on the slide. Thank you very much. Hello?
Yes, thank you, Ian.
Mhm.
A lot of food for thought. Get a few questions, but before we go further, um, one of the things you highlighted was the new pests that comes into the island. Would you
Mm.
like to take us through the process for safely moving plant material from one region to the next?
Sure, yes. And this applies to anyone who is thinking about either importing or when they go overseas, getting plants and bringing them back to Barbados. And the procedure is this. If you want to bring a plant into Barbados, the first thing you need to go and do is to visit the plant quarantine section of the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, that's the first thing. And you basically tell them what you want to bring in, who you want to bring it from, and how many of these plants you want to bring in. And they will usually give you a form to fill out in which you would put in all that information. Okay? And then that form, you submit that form to them, and it goes through a process of um, the quarantine officers looking at it and determining whether they can allow those plants into the island or not. And when it's not being allowed in, it's most likely because those plants, especially where you're getting those plants from, might have certain pests on them that we do not have in Barbados, right? And we really don't need any more. So, people, I implore you, the first thing you need if you're thinking about bringing plants from Barbados, go and see the people at Ministry of Agriculture, Plant Quarantine Section, and let them advise you what to do. Do not try to sneak them in or smuggle them in, because you, like the same lady that brought in the Croton scale, can result in a whole lot of problems on our fruit trees and ornamentals that we did not have before because of that pest.
Okay, we have some questions. Um, I don't think you'll be able to pull up a slide now, but someone wanted to know what the larvae of the ladybird looks like. And then there was another question about getting ladybirds. In fact, that was something in my own observation. I have not seen a lot of ladybirds around.
Well, I mean, up here where I live in St. Thomas, I see them quite regularly.
That's
Um,
good.
um, and all different types of species. So they're still there, still doing their job. Um, yeah, so I mean, if someone who has like a commercial farm or something so that wants to bring in these ladybird beetles, whatever species, again, they should go through plant quarantine and find out if they can bring them in or not. Usually, if it's a useful predatory insect like a ladybird, there it's usually not much of a problem, right? So speak with the people at Plant Quarantine. You can also speak with Mr. Brett Taylor, who is in charge of the entomology section of the Ministry of Agriculture. Speak with them, and they will be happy to advise you how you can go about importing these ladybirds into the island. The ministry itself, when for example, um, pink hibiscus mealybug came into the island and was causing a lot of trouble, they we imported in excess of 400,000 of one species of mealybugs, right? And it became well established here and has been doing good control since then.
Okay, we have a question why marigolds are now being eaten by slugs.
Um, yeah, I guess you will get exceptions in every instance, but
Yes.
usually they work reasonably well for warding off insect pests. You know, slugs are voracious things and they eat anything in sight practically.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, if they're eating your marigolds, then I would suggest you put down some sluggo, as I mentioned,
Right.
which is totally organic, and that should
Uh,
help.
right. On that same note, you mentioned oleander being um, attacked by aphids, but
Yes.
oleander is known to be poisonous.
Yes, it has in high levels of cardiac glycosides. And but these insects seem to have bypassed that or are able to, over the millennia, are able to metabolize it and proceed on.
Okay. Um, I know in my research, they say that they're able to put that dangerous chemical into the exoskeleton so the mold, it, they just shed it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There are various
Uh,
methods that they can use to minimize the effect of those toxins.
okay.
Mhm.
Um, Two questions quickly. One, you have a problem, but you know I'm a succulent grower.
You're a what?
So a succulent grower,
Yeah,
captive
yeah, yeah,
succulent.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So I need to keep my plants very dry.
Hmm.
You didn't mention that lots of these um pests, especially the succulent ones, scales, etc.,
Hmm.
usually attack the plants when they're very dry.
Yeah.
How can I find a compromise?
Well, first thing, you monitor your plants regularly. Don't just look at them now and 4 weeks away, look at them again. Look at them twice a week. You know, and if you see any problems developing, as I said, you can use one or more of these organic alternatives that I gave, the soap and oil, horticultural oils, and so forth. And they work
Okay.
well.
Okay. And the other question would be, do you have a list of plants that we can say are more tolerant to some of these pests?
Um,
I know you like to push your favorite one.
yes, you mean Rondelisha.
Yes.
Yes, that is that, as I said before on many occasions, that score that ticks every single box that I can think of. It's beautiful, ornamental, floriferous, pest resistant, drought resistant, heat tolerant, everything. It's a
Okay.
pity that we don't plant thousands of them.
I think part of the problem is that no one has really gone into the propagation in
Hmm.
any big way.
It's apparently it's difficult to propagate unless you grow it from seed.
Okay. A
Mm.
question was asked about Epsom salts and soap. And I want
Hmm.
to know what was the effect of that combination.
Well, the soap mainly works as a in two ways. It breaks down the skin, as you would say, or waxy coating of some insects, um, and makes them prone to dehydration. And in addition of that, to that, it actually gets into the breathing system of the insect. They don't have lungs like you and I. They have what you call a tracheal system that carries the oxygen deep into the insect. So that soap gets into the tracheal system and clogs it up and basically suffocates the insect as well.
What's the best time to apply?
You mean that mixture?
Yes.
Or the soap? Evening time.
You want to repeat that?
Evening time. Not
Okay.
morning, not midday, not mid-afternoon, evening time. When the rays of the sun are starting to get a little less intense, that's the best time to do it. And because you minimize any risk of burning of the plant leaves, which can happen if you apply it during the bright, hot times of the day, it's called there's a reaction that it can occur, and you want to minimize that as much as possible. So please, peoples, do it late afternoon, evening time.
Okay, someone wanted you to repeat your favorite plant.
Rhonda Leisha, Rondaletia.
Okay.
Beautiful,
Um,
beautiful. You can go in, like for example, at St. George Parish Church and see two stunning examples of it. Very floriferous. They can shape it into a ball. It looks wonderful. I can imagine, Jeff, what an avenue of those plants. At
yes,
each side
yes.
of the road, for example, um, it would look like. I mean, they're practically maintenance free.
Yeah, I think that's one exercise that we can probably get someone involved in actually propagating um a lot of the ornamental um that are hardy and very suited for our conditions.
Right. Things like December Andalacia, Texas sage, silver dollar, and things like that, or oleander, for example, as well. There are
Yeah,
whole, as you would know, there's a whole set of different flower colors in oleander now,
London, yes.
and they're very hardy, very tolerant. I mean, to me,
But
to my mind, these things would do so much better along the highways and byways instead of some of the other types that they stick there, forget to water, if ever, and they slowly die and look bad.
yeah, there are also some dwarf types in the oleanders as well.
Yes, the
Okay.
yellows and so yeah.
Well, I guess we can wrap up. Again, thank you, Mr. Gibbs, for your wealth of knowledge and all that you've done for the island, significant contribution to advancing agriculture, horticulture on the island. We thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to say to it, if anybody wants to contact me, they can call or WhatsApp me on 230-8184. 230-8184, and I would be happy to reply to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.